Continuing with our 380 investigation of the pure, we're going to make a distinction between the pure and the innocent, although they're often linked, since in order to achieve purity, one often has to have an innocent victim. Christ, a virgin, a newborn lamb, a unicorn, whatever, so that they may be slaughtered. And in this sacrifice of the innocent, purity is born. Purity is violent. Purity is ferocious, and it's no wonder that whenever any group wants to commit genocide, they automatically bring in the machinery of the pure. So purity is a very unstable and powerful idea. Innocence, on the other hand, which is slaughtered toward purity, all right, carries in it the sense of that which will later be corrupt. It carries not the initial purity, because purity also contains the word purgation. Purity happens in temporal sense as a way of taking what has been corrupted and purifying it. Innocence, though, no. Innocence exists in a prior state. And to look at it, a poem of innocence, so to speak, I thought I'd take this wonderful poem by Soto, Oranges. The first time I walked with a girl, I was 12. Cold and weighed down with 2 oranges in my jacket. December, frost cracking beneath my steps, my breath before me, then gone. As I walked toward her house, the one whose porch light burned yellow night and day, in any weather, a dog barked at me until she came out pulling at her gloves, face bright with rouge. I smiled, touched her shoulder, and led her down the street, across the used car lot in a line of newly planted trees, until we were breathing before a drugstore. We entered, the tiny bell bringing a saleslady down a narrow aisle of goods. I turned to the candies, teared like bleachers, and asked what she wanted. Light in her eyes, a smile starting at the corners of her mouth. I fingered a nickel in my pocket, and when she lifted a chocolate that cost a dime, I didn't say anything. I took the nickel from my pocket and an orange and set them quietly on the counter. When I looked up, the lady's eyes met mine and held them, knowing very well what it was all about. Outside, a few cars hissing past, fog hanging like old coats between the trees, I took my girl's hand in mine for 2 blocks, then released it to let her unwrap the chocolate. I peeled my orange that was so bright against the gray of December, that from some distance someone might have thought I was making a fire in my hands. It's a beautiful poem. And the poem hinges on the idea that this woman, this sales lady, just understands wordlessly what this kid is doing, that he's trying to impress his girl. The innocence of the poem is in the blind faith he has that this will work out. He only has half the money for what he wants to buy for this girl. And he puts his orange on that counter. He risks everything, because he could be humiliated. The woman could say, "I'm sorry, honey, we don't accept oranges." And he's shot down. So, in innocence is involved risk at the very least. Either the risk of corruption, or the risk of failure, or the risk of slaughter. The slaughter of the innocents. So innocence always lies in this precarious state. Innate to innocence is the idea of corruption, the idea of risk, the idea of loss. it is this woman's ability to recognize his innocence and also his desire to please his girl. So it would be interesting to contrast this poem by Gary Soto, Oranges, with the section in St. Augustine's Confessions where they go and they steal the fruit. Innocent boys' pranks, supposedly, but Augustine shows the seeds of corruption within innocence. We'll talk about it at a later time when we look at Burke's Rhetoric of Religion and what his take is on Augustine's narrative. But for now, you can see the difference between innocence. First of all, innocence can be effective. Purity does not exist in the mechanisms of cause and effect. Innocence does. So you might say that innocence is a nascent form of purity brought down into the realm of cause and effect, whereas purity is all breathing human passion far above. Both innocence and purity are extremely volatile and precarious. Actually, purity insists on being not at all vulnerable. It exists in this realm of the mind. And when people talk of ethnic purity or ethnic cleansing, watch out. When people speak of innocence, a nostalgic return to innocence, they're really not talking about innocence. They're talking about purgation, burning down whatever is getting in the way of this supposed Edenic realm of innocence. Be careful. It's dangerous. In terms of innocence, it heightens in this poem the love he feels for this girl. His very hopelessness, the fact that he lays this orange down, his submission to the possibility of not having enough resources to impress his honey. This is a very telling moment. And then last orange, he had 2 oranges, so he didn't lose. She has the chocolate, he has the orange. And it's like a fire in his hands. He's traded up that 1 orange for a chocolate. He's given her the greater gift. And this is courtship, because in a sense that chocolate represents, in an act of courtship, there's always a sense that the one you are courting is to some degree superior to you, or at least the mechanisms of your courtship should give that sense of them being superior to you. They are a goal you're trying to attain. They are the higher realm. And his orange is transcended upward into a chocolate. But only when this woman recognizes, she's almost like God, she recognizes his need. Interesting poem. And it's interesting to think of the differences between innocence and purity. Purity is far more ferocious. It ain't a day at the beach. Later.